I retired just in time because I wanted to just get out the door before this guy started coming up and whooping my ass.
1, don't be afraid to step up. 2, fall forward. And 3, don't quit. We only have a certain amount of time on this earth. Spend it wisely, and don't waste your time doing things you don't want to do. Learn to say no. Focus on you. Get yourself right. Once you are right, then you focus on helping others get right.
Gentlemen listening around the world, today we are super stoked and excited. Coach Aaron and myself on the Ultimate Man podcast are here with a guest that I haven't had the blessing yet to quite meet, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about. Coach Aaron and this gentleman have had a relationship of working together before, but I want to invite listeners right now who are businessmen. Tune in and get your notebooks ready. Listeners who are UFC fans, you're going to want to get right on the edge of your seat here. Fathers, you might get some fatherly advice from this gentleman because he is the father of a 19-month-old daughter. And military enthusiasts, people who are in the military, you're going to understand a lot of the lingo. You're going to understand a lot of the mindset. This gentleman here is coming to us with experience. And one of the things that drew me into this episode the most was not only is he inspiring, he's got YouTube channels and Instagrams, but he just went after one of the records for the Guinness Book. And that was super, super intriguing. And Aaron knows this gentleman personally. He's got a ton of information that he's going to bring us today. So gentlemen around the world, get ready. The main event of March is here. And our guest today is DeShawn. And if you hear us say DeShawn, it's because people know him differently. His mom uses DeShawn. That might be reserved for family, but I might call him that too, just because I want to feel family today. Welcome to the show, Young Guns, War Daddy, DeShawn White. Ultimate Man podcast. Let's get started. Coach Aaron, how are we doing today, brother?
Doing awesome, brother. Glad to be here with our young guns, DeShawn, man. So yeah, it's been a pleasure knowing this guy, man. We've been knowing each other for probably about, I don't know, 10 years, give or take. And I originally met DeShawn. He came and trained at my UFC gym where we're doing some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, some kickboxing, some strength and conditioning. He saw us doing one of our exhibitions down at the park one night and said, I got to go check these guys out. I'm going to go up to the gym and kick their butt. Let's see what these old guys are all about. So he came up, checked it out, and got hooked, man. He started training, doing some of my jiu-jitsu classes. I remember holding the mitts for him. And he's one of those guys that, like, he steps your game up. You know, as coaches, we like to, like, always have those students and members and stuff that challenge us and take us to the next level too. So he was one of those guys when I was, like, holding the mitts for him that I would just be like, oh, man, I got to be on my A game right here, man. This guy's coming with some fire. You know what I mean? So, and he's just always been a very positive, influential kind of guy, good positive role model. And then I just recently saw that he was doing the burpee pull-up Guinness record challenge coming up here on his Instagram live. So I tuned in and checked that out, and he's a freaking absolute beast. I couldn't do half of what he did on that. And we'll dive into that a little bit later. But welcome to the show, brother. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Beautiful introduction, guys. Really, I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I'm very thankful to have good, influential people that are around me and that help make me do better in life as well. So I look up to you as well, Aaron. It's great meeting you today, Lawrence. I look forward to becoming friends after this for sure.
Absolutely. That's why I want to use DeShawn. I feel like I feel a part of the family with that. That's great. And again, there's two things that just kind of came off the top of my head when I heard, as we were talking in the beginning, the nickname Young Guns. I got to find out where that came from. Coach Aaron, you gave that to him?
Yeah. And I mean, it just, well, you know what, where I got that from, actually, someone called me Young Guns a long time ago. I went out to this like private dinner, and there was some bigwigs there, like Don Fry. You remember Don Fry?
Absolutely.
He was there at this dinner that we had in town. And then also some like other big like professional wrestlers at the time. And I was kind of like starstruck and stuff too. So anyways, there's a whole long story with that. But Don Fry called me Young Guns, and I just kind of liked the term after that. And I'm like, this guy is the next Young Guns right here. He's the next up and coming stud muffin right here. So that's why it's stuck.
That's awesome. Now, Don Fry, for those of you listening who are UFC fans, know that this man is Hall of Fame. And in fact, I think he just got inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame. So DeShawn is now on your list of the next upcoming Hall of Famers, which is pretty damn badass. So I'm super stoked about it. The other nickname was War Daddy. and we got that from in the military. Can you tell us a little bit about how that name came about?
Yeah, so I'm in the Marine Corps. I'm a sergeant, and I'm in the reserve side right now. So I'm an 0341, which is infantry. It's a mortarman. So we drop mortars and blow things up, right? And I'm in charge of my entire section. So I have a bunch of guys underneath me. They're all a couple years younger than me. And so I'm the one of the few guys that is actually a father. And so if we are to go to war, then I am their war daddy because I'm basically in charge of them. I'm the one who they come to for everything. So I'm their dad. So war daddy kind of slid in there, and that's my nickname. But I can't say that when Brass is around. Brass would be the officer. So if you're over the radio, it's not War Daddy. It's a White Panther actual. So, but amongst the community, it's War Daddy.
Yeah.
They know what it is.
That's so cool, man. I love it. It sounds so legit too. And again, it's one of those things where we hear the word daddy, it sounds kind of, it's been used in so many other
Who's your
contexts.
daddy? Who's your daddy?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, it's like, how did War Daddy come? I don't know. So listeners who are listening in, obviously, we're going to have some fun here today, but we're also going to get some nuggets of golden truth. So making sure you're making your notes down there. Coach Aaron, I think we want to start just to kind of find out a little bit more about DeShawn's UFC interests and things like that, because we talked about the fights that were coming up. We had O'Malley and Cheeto Vera that were on the last pay-per-view, and we made some predictions. I think we had both gone with O'Malley to end that one. I'm pretty sure that was our prediction the first time around. And it turned out to be that is what happened. And so we want to find out a little bit about DeShawn's background as far as, has he been in MMA? Has he done some training in there? And you guys have a little bit more of a story there. So can we go in and dive into some of that?
Yeah, if I can take over from here.
Yeah, go for it.
So I started training with Aaron when I was about, I want to say 15. And I did it for about 6 months solid. And then I think football season started back up and I had to start working over the summer. So then I wasn't able to fit jiu-jitsu in the time frame. So went through that, played football, came back. When I came back, I think that's right around the time that your gym was closing, was around that time frame. And so then I ended up just buying a bunch of the equipment from Aaron. Well, really, you gave me everything basically. But I bought a bunch of equipment from you and I used that and I started training with my guys. So like all my friends would come over on the weekends if we weren't working or didn't have football or anything. And we would just train ourselves. So everything I learned was from Aaron, and then I was teaching all them that as well. So the little ghetto kids that I grew up with, my buddy Brett Donham, all of us, we used to get down all the time. It was a fun time. And so I started that. And then, like I said, your gym was no longer around then. So then I think senior year, I started training again at another gym that had opened up right behind Mendo Mill for a little bit. And then that closed down. And so then I moved on to the next one, which was when I deployed. And so I deployed my first time back in 2018 to 19. And when I was deployed there, we were in Japan, and one of my buddies, he's a purple belt. Truthfully, I think he's a black belt, but he's a purple belt in his gym. And he was training all the Marines. So we'd go to classes every Tuesday and Thursday. So I did that for about 8 months while we were deployed. And we're looking at deploying again here soon. And he's there again. So we're going to start that up again as well there. So if you've ever been on a military base, their gyms, like, yeah, the living quarters suck, but the gyms are usually badass. Like really nice, like 29 Palms, badass gym. Lejeune, badass gym. Japan, awesome gym. They're remodeling it. It's great times.
That's awesome. Where would the next deployment take you?
So right now it's looking like it's going to be similar. We're going to go to Japan again, but then from there they're trying to branch out and hit different locations to go cross train with other foreign nations out there. So Japanese Defense Force, they're talking about maybe training with the Taiwanese. We're talking about training with the Philippines, the Koreans. So we're trying to figure out kind of where we're going to jump around there. They don't really know. They're just kind of giving an idea. Hey, we're going to be heading out this way. And so if we can link up and get it approved, then we'll go train with these guys. If not, then we'll be on Japan, just having fun in Japanistan.
Nice. Okay. So, and we go back to when you first were working with Coach Aaron as well. You studied some of the MMA at that point, or were the stuff you were taking back and teaching the boys?
Yeah. So when I was training with Aaron, I used to actually I would get off of school at like 3:30, and then I would walk from the school to Aaron's gym, which was over by the movie theaters. And that's a cool couple mile walk every day. And so by the time I'd get there, it'd be like 5:30-ish. And I would start training there. We would do, I think typically when I showed up, it was the kids class was going, and then it was straight to hot yoga, and then it'd be kickboxing and then jujitsu. So I would get like 5 hours in and then walk back home typically.
Wow.
And so it was an everyday process for a little bit of time from Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I don't think I trained there.
Yeah.
But Monday through Friday, I was there every day.
5 days a week.
I fell in love with it very quick. And then there was also a young kid who was a couple years older than me that was fighting. I don't remember his name, but I think he was like 17 and he had his first fight. And I was like, oh, dude, I could fight this early too.
Yeah.
That got me super excited.
Oh, probably Adrian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian was a little stud too.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I was just wondering too, with you were saying young, as far as the nickname Young Guns came in, then you were just saying there was a young guy there, Adrian. And I asked earlier before the show started how old DeShawn was. And for the gentleman listening right now, just for the sake of relatability, I always say I'm 45 years old. Coach Aaron, we're over 40 years old. We're the old guys in the group, but we actually train hard, we work hard, and we stay young. We're as young as we are with our habits and our consistencies. And DeShawn said he was 27 years old, young. And I thought that was pretty cool because he didn't say I'm 27 years old. So that's a framework and a mindset. And we're going to talk more about mindset today, which we have said, can be very, very beneficial and maybe even the main mover in your results. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was addictive personality. And you said you've got a very addictive personality, but a lot of people have that and they look at it in a framework of negativity and they say, my addictive personality leads me down dark paths. But if you could send a message out to someone who's identifying as a young man with addictive personality right now, how would you frame it to make that maybe more of a blessing than a curse?
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful question. And so what I would say with that is a lot of the times kids who have addictive personalities, they're pushing it towards something that's negative and doesn't actually benefit them, right? So a lot of people get addicted to, let's just say, drugs or whatever it is, and it's having a negative impact, and then it's going to compound, right? So maybe they're smoking weed, and that's where that phrase gets, the gateway drug. It really just means that with one negative aspect, if you keep doing it, it's going to eventually compound, and it keeps compounding. If you know anything about investing with money, compound interest adds up quick. It may take a little bit of time and it may take time for it to rise, but as soon as it hits that, it jolts fast and then you get screwed over, right? So find something that's actually positively affecting you. So if it's sports, like I could never imagine it. Like, so I have a daughter, she's 19 months old. If she gets addicted to freaking gymnastics, I'm not going to tell her, don't do gymnastics for 7 hours a day. What sense does that make? If she's into it that much, good. Push her towards it, help her get after it. Try to help her understand about burnout too. Because I do think that's something that happened. I had a lot of friends who were really good wrestlers through middle school. And then when they hit high school, they just had burnt out. So having to find that happy medium. But at the end of the day, if you have an addictive personality, just shift it. Shift your mindset to, hey, I don't want to do bad things. Let's find out what's actually good and can benefit me. Too many people waste time. And I think they waste it on the wrong things. TikTok, social media, because that's what you think you're addicted to. And it's just turn that off for a little bit. Go outside, take your sock shoes off, ground with the ground, hang out, breathe, and then find something else. It's not that complicated, guys.
Nice. That's some great information.
Hard issue, or everyone thinks that every problem is harder than it really is. There's simple fixtures for everything. Take the time.
I love that. And I love that you kind of touched on a lot of the biohacking and things like that, because I know that's something you're a proponent of, as well as advocating for that natural light, that grounding, and a lot of those things that people are just taking for granted. It's available, it's there, and we often either don't think about it or overcomplicate this process a lot. Which is part of it. So I wanted to frame that though, because I think that's really important for our listener base. And we said younger individuals, but it does happen at older ages as well. Like midlife, people deal with these addictive personalities, and it can be an absolute attribute. Now, when we talk about mindsets, we talk about skill sets and all these different things. When we talk back to UFC, which we started this conversation, do you have any favorite fighters that you already kind of follow and idolize and cheer for?
Yeah, so favorite fighters that I would have, Max Holloway. I love Max Holloway. Just every time he gets in there, it's a dogfight. Poirier, I love Poirier as well. It's a dogfight every time.
Hell yeah.
It's just very entertaining, but it's not just so much of like their fights that I like about them. It's who they are in the outside world. They're just very good people. Like Holloway's a really good person outside of it. He donates money. He's just a good guy overall. He sends a positive message. Same with Poirier. I really like Kevin Holland because that's one of those dudes that's just down for anything.
Yeah.
Hey, call me, I'll fight. Call me, I'll fight. That's the kind of guy I like. He's not worried about going for a belt and just worried about fighting once a year to keep his money up and keep his fan. Nah, he's just like, dude, let's get it. I'm in this fight game to make money and have fun and make fans, and everybody loves him for it. So those two are probably my two biggest favorite fighters right there. I liked Conor just because he brought a different aura to MMA. He brought this whole talking shit, getting everything crazy and publicizing it and making it bigger than it is. So I like that because that brought a lot of viewers in.
So we always talk about with UFC favorites. We like to ask this question because we find that every time we ask that question, I've asked it to Aaron, and then he's asked it of me. We've asked it of guests in the past. And every time we find that their favorite fighters, usually 3 or 4 different guys, they all share the same characteristic that's very often in alignment with themselves as a person. And so Aaron has this kill or be killed straight on, let's get it done fast attitude. He loves it, right? let's go hard. And most of the fighters he aligned with were all aggressive striker attackers. And it was so in line with him. And I pointed that out. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. And then we thought about my favorite list, and it was all tacticians. It was science-based, and it was everything. So when you listed Holloway, Poirier, I was starting to think this guy's a striker. So DeShawn likes the striking game. And that was the first thing that came to mind. But then you talked about the dogfight in all of them. And I was like, maybe it's not so much just that, it's their willingness to go to war. And I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. That's in alignment with this, obviously, what he does and what he loves. And I was like, these, mentioning Holloway and Poirier, both of them have been in some big round wars, whether it be 3 or 5 rounds, they've gone and they never, ever back down. And like, that sounds like, again, personality trait that's much in alignment with DeShawn here. And then he mentioned Kevin Holland, and I was like, well, there's another guy who's willing always to go to war, but he's also ready on, the call of the spur of the moment. You can call on him. He's a reliable man, and he's always willing to do what it takes. And he's very entertaining. So I was like, is there an entertaining side of you as well? You like to be funny and entertain the crowd? Is that something that you look for, or is that a trait of Holland's that you really enjoy? So what do you think about that as far as DeShawn, knowing yourself, obviously? Are those fighters all in alignment with who you are as a person?
It's very funny that you said that, because as soon as you were speaking, I started putting it together in my head. I was like, wow, that is exactly correct, actually.
Yeah.
That's why I like them. They have that dog in them. When it gets down, they're going to bite down on their mouthpiece. They're going to get after it. Holland's an entertainer. Like I was saying before, McGregor, he understands that use his mouthpiece to get what he wants, and that's what he ended up doing to make all of his money. And I understand that, and that's what I'm trying to start doing now. And it all makes sense when you said that. It all does align. I do agree with that wholeheartedly.
So crazy, right? We become fans of ourselves, but we do it through an external source, right? We watch these guys and we cheer for them, and we want to feel the victory with them because they're so in alignment with who we are. It's like we win too. That's pretty cool. This past weekend, we just had the fight with O'Malley and Chito Vera, but we've also got another one coming up, which I think is going to be something we should definitely talk about. And it's Poirier versus Holloway, right? 2 of DeShawn's favorites are about to go down for the BMF belt.
Well, no, not Gaethje versus Holloway.
That's right, Gaethje. I'm sorry. Yeah, right, that's right.
Too.
Yeah,
Holloway is on that show, though. He is fighting on that same card. I'm pretty sure. I was watching the press conference.
Holloway versus Gaethje on that one, isn't it?
Yeah. Holloway versus Gaethje. Poirier just fought in the last one. That's right. I'm mistaken there. Poirier is the one that was.
I'm very happy about that, by the way. I'm still mad at the French for pulling out of both world wars. So USA in the show, when he knocked him out, I was like, let's go.
Because Saint Denis was seen as a rising talent, and I mean, he was kind of a silent in the background. It wasn't like superstar level notoriety, but man, his record was speaking for itself.
Yeah, and he's legit. He's got a lot of potential in the future. I think they might have rushed him up a little quick, but at the end of the day, good. Because if anything, he's going to do one of 2 things. He's going to learn, he's going to grow, or he's going to shelter and he's going to cry. So hopefully he learns and he grows through special forces. I assume that he's going to go back to the drawing board, look at everything he did wrong, start to correct it, and start studying all the people above him now and take it a little bit more serious. Because when you're in this winning streak, I think too many people think that, oh, I'm a god, I can't die, I can't get shot, I can't lose, until you get your Achilles tendon hit, and now you're like Achilles and you lose. Everybody's got a poison.
Yeah, that adversity becomes where you really test the man, right? And find out, where the champions really are. A lot of guys, that first loss is the end of their career. They just can't come back from that first loss. So this will be a great test for Saint Denis to see where he can go. Obviously, you would have been stoked about Poirier pulling that off with that knockout victory.
I was jumping up and down, going crazy.
Love it.
That was good.
Right on.
And they're talking about maybe setting Poirier up with Makhachev next too.
Yep.
Right. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I think that the freaking Dagestanis, man, their wrestling is very good. And I don't know if I do not want to shoot down my boy Poirier. I love Poirier. If they stand and trade, Poirier wins. But if they go to the ground, I think that's where Islam's going to take advantage. And it's very similar to what like Umar Nurmagomedov did. He was getting clapped up, standing very fast. Like, yeah, nope, I'm just going to go to my advantage and win. And that's all they really have to do to keep winning until somebody can combat that. So hopefully, the Bo Nichols coming up that are really good at wrestling can combat that to where now you have to stand and trade because we're too even on the ground. And that's what I think they showed a nice little chink in Islam's armor when he fought against Alexander Volkanovski the first time. Because he realized I can't just take him down and beat the shit out of him. Yeah, granted, he was able to hold him down on the ground, but he was doing no damage during the time. And when it got down to it, the nitty gritty, that 5th round, if it's a schoolyard fight, he would have lost that fight. And if it was like, there's no time limit, you're dead, buddy. So I definitely think there's chinks in their armor. Poirier wins if they go standing. If they don't go standing, Islam, I think, is going to take that one long term.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this game too, right? The whole martial arts and the mixed martial arts is that you can take a game plan and a strategy, and it's your job to implement your strategy to the best of your ability. And most guys who dominate in one specific art, if they can get that to work for them, they come out victorious. But if they're struggling to get that to work, and like you said, Bo Nickel, who counters that and puts up a challenge, would be really interesting to see, because now you're forced into another art form to try to gain an advantage. And it's like that's where the well-rounded artist comes together.
Yep.
So I just love the sport. I think it's so exciting. But when we go to this BMF title, is Gaethje one of your top guys? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's willing to get in a dogfight. He's been in, they call him the human highlight reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is he one of those guys that makes the top 5 for you?
Yeah, I love Gaethje. Now, depends on if we're talking about like top 5 overall ever, or if it's just like top 5 that I'm gonna watch their fight regardless. I don't care who else is on the card. Like I'm gonna watch it. I will always watch Gaethje's card. There's always gonna be something crazy going on there. Him and Poirier, the most recent fight, that was awesome. That was sad because I love Poirier, but awesome to watch. And it's cool too. Like I like seeing people that lose and then come back from it greatly. So when Poirier came back, I was juiced, man. I think that's a beautiful thing. His comeback to it. Gaethje, I'm definitely excited to watch him fight Max Holloway, because Max has never been knocked down, and Max is that dog. And so very interested to see. I think if Max makes it past the first 2 rounds with him, then I think Max can take it, just because when it gets into round 3, 4, 5, he doesn't stop striking. His striking is just insane. He'll throw 10,000 punches and still be standing there. So as long as he doesn't get knocked out within the first 2 rounds, I think he'll take it. That's my prediction.
That's a great prediction too. I like that. Coach Aaron, have you got a prediction on the Holloway
I'm
and
going with
Gaethje?
Gaethje on this one. I love Max as well, but Gaethje's just freaking vicious, dude. Well, they're both vicious. It's so hard to say, but if I had to pick, I'd go with Gaethje.
Oh, I love it. That's great. And so you guys are on the opposite end of the decisions here, and
Yep.
and I'm not much of a tiebreaker, but there's a lot of pressure because I see both sides of those arguments, and I agree with both of you. There's definitely that long-term game for Holloway. He's got like the strike percentage record of all time. I think he still holds that. That's hard to beat. A guy who can stand there for 5 rounds and keep throwing that volume. Gaethje, though, is that one-punch knockout artist too. So man, it's interesting. But I think if it had to go long term distance wise, which I think it will, I'm going to go with Holloway as well, just on volume. But man, it is going to be fun. That's going to be an awesome one. So guys listening to the show who love UFC, you're going to want to tune into that one. Get in our comments section and let us know what your predictions are as well, because we'd love to hear from you. So that's awesome. Coach Aaron, anything else on the MMA world and the UFC stuff that you'd like to ask of DeShawn today?
No, I think that's good, man. I got so many other questions I want to dive into. I want to get going on some other stuff too.
Totally.
Let's jump into some of the burpee challenge, the burpee pull-up challenge that DeShawn just went through. He was attempting the Guinness Book of World Record for the burpee pull-up, which is freaking insane. And the current record is like 573 or 9. What was it?
Yes, sir. It's 573 is the current record. Supposedly there's some other guy that beat him in Salem, but his record hasn't been approved, so that could be for a lot of rules. If you didn't know, the Guinness World Record, it's got a lot of very strict rules on how they deem if it's record breaking and whatnot. If you want to pay somebody to come out and watch it from the Guinness World Record, it's like $16,000 a day.
Whoa.
Something outrageous, but they're very strict on their rules. And so you have to have like 3 different recordings. You have to have a whole playbook. You have to have a certain amount of personal trainers there watching whatever you're doing. There's just a lot of rules that go into it. So maybe that guy did beat it and it might be higher than what 573 is currently. Either way, I definitely can beat it. I tied it 4 months prior. What ended up happening on this one is, no excuses. The man I was that day was not the man that was meant to beat it. I think I was meant for a comeback story. So it looks a little bit better and brighter on me. I'm very excited to come back and show that I can fight adversity. So that's not a problem at all. I'm not deterred. What happened through it is around 100, I ripped my hands. I'm not sure if you guys can see very perfectly, but my hands are a little ripped up and cut on both sides. And it makes the bar a little bit slipperier. And then when you're trying to hold on and squeeze too, you're doing a little bit extra. That's not an excuse either, because I should have still been able to do it, but I fell short at 501 burpee pull-ups. And, the coolest thing about the whole situation though, is you never realize how many people are actually in your corner until you're doing something big like that. And, even a lot of these times, like I'm sure you guys have posted on social media before and you'll get, 1 or 2 likes and you're like, dang man, like I feel like I put in all this work and no one really cares, but people are watching. They're not always liking, they're not always sharing it, but everybody is watching you. And I thought it was one of the most beautiful things is when I posted that is the amount of love I got. I got so many messages from people I don't talk with anymore, but we're just saying like, hey bro, I love you. I support you. I think you're so awesome. Like, you don't realize how cool this is, what you're doing. You're inspiring other people. And it's like, it makes it so much more worth it. It means so much more to me now. It's like, now I have a different hunger and a different fire underneath me. Before, I was doing this just to cement a record and just be like, hoobity hoobla, look at me now. Now I'm big. Kind of more so like that. But now it means something more. Like, now I have to do it so I could show other kids they can do it too. That's the whole purpose. Cement a legacy. Show everybody you can be someone better than you truly are. It's not just based on where you live, where you grow up. We grew up in a small town. Not a lot of people get out of here. Not a lot of people do a lot of things with what they were given. But at the end of the day, it's a half glass full.
Nice. I'm just
Yeah.
absorbing that, letting that sink in for a moment. That's great information. I don't care if you're an experienced coach, a businessman, a child out there, whatever. That's good information. His mindset right now, we talked about the addictive personality and things like that. The idea of going after a 573 rep challenge of any sort, I don't care what it is a lot to take on mentally. And you can see where DeShawn's mindset goes is like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best I can be at doing it, which I think is so admirable. You've also mentioned in like our little pre-chat, I think, was that you were kind of like this in all your sports that you've done, is whatever you get into, this is your mindset. When you went into this knowing you could do 573, you had already performed it once, you said, to show yourself you could do it. And on this given day, like you said, the hands tore up and the blood and whatever else got in the way of your performance a little bit. And it excites you about coming back and being able to perform it again. How long do you think it would be before you'd be ready to do this and try this again?
So now here's where the competitive side comes out. I could do it next weekend. I'm positive of it. It's very funny. The whole situation was very awesome. I think I overcompensated, because I had done it before. So now I put myself through a whole fight camp too. So a legit 6-week program that I built myself, set up with how many extra burpee pulls I'm gonna do a day on top of entire workouts already. So I was working out 7 days a week the entire time for it. I was ready to rock and roll. Everything was good. I was feeling great. That day I was feeling great. Everything was cool. I think that I think the world needed to humble me. And I think that's great because sometimes you need that. Like I said, I have a very addictive personality. Any sport I hop into, I'm going to go as hard as I can, balls to the wall, fall in love with it. I'm going to become great at it because that's just my personality. I can't be the worst in the room ever. I have to find a way to be the best. And that's kind of one of those things that was good because it humbled me and made me realize, you know what? I'm not this top dog anymore. I need to work harder again. So it's just beautiful. It's just another hill. Every time you get to the top of the hill, you just see another bigger hill. So I'm going to climb that hill, beat that, and then work on the next record. And the next record I'm going to go for is going to be something that I just like doing things that nobody else likes to do. You don't like to do it? Good. I'll do it. Put me in there. I'll go after it. Yeah.
What inspired you to do that particular challenge? Like, was there something that you were drawn to that,
Because it sucked.
Yeah, it was the worst.
That was the thing. I'm all about it because nobody else wanted to do that. Like, once I get that record, the person after that's going to say it, they're probably like, yeah, you know what? Fuck that, dude. That's too much. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it, man. I will always go for that. There's 10% in there. There's a 1% chance I'm going to get it. I'm going for it. I have no problem with that at all. So that's kind of the reason I actually posted about it because basically I was working out every day and I've been gaining a lot of weight. So I was bulking and I kind of was just not like the motivation for working out in the morning. I don't usually need pre-workout. I was starting to use pre-workout again. And I was like, man, dude, I'm just not feeling it right now. So I have to find something to help drive me to keep going forward. And so that's why I came up with a post. I was like, hey guys, I'm going to try out for a Guinness World Record. Throw me all of them that you think I can do or something that you think would suck. And then this was one of them that came up and I was like, ooh, that sucks. Let's do it. And started practicing that day.
It's great.
Did you cut any weight in preparation? Like, I know you were bulking before that. It'd be a lot easier if you were like 10 pounds lighter. Did you try to lighten up a little bit first?
Yeah. So with the fight week that I said, the whole camp, basically, the first week I did a 24-hour fast within it. The next week I did a 48-hour fast. Next week, 48-hour fast, 48-hour fast. Each week I was doing a 48-hour fast just so I can maintain my health and also let autophagy step into play and just kind of try to cleanse my body out a bit. And so I did drop weight. I was at about 190. I dropped down to about 178, 80-ish. So I was right around there. I thought weight was perfect, no issues. And yeah, just wasn't the better man that day.
Well, it was a freaking awesome performance, dude. I was watching him the whole time on the live and I was like going, this guy is fucking machine, dude.
I appreciate it.
I loved Aaron's question because it was like, what in the hell made you choose that exercise? And your answer was that you, if I heard you correctly, was that you like to take the most challenging thing that sucks that nobody else wants to do. And when I ask clients, well, what exercise are you struggling with? Most often it's pull-ups. People
Oh
just
yeah.
struggle with pull-ups, right? And they're like, push-ups kind of might be a close second. Some people struggle with push-ups, but when it comes to guys, they can do a lot more push-ups so they can do pull-ups,
Hmm.
no matter what condition they're in. And whether it be, they can do two push-ups, but they can't do any pull-ups. That's still, one-sided towards the pull-up. So pull-ups is definitely something you'd go after. And I don't know if I'm sure there's a Guinness record just for pull-ups alone.
Hmm.
But the fact that you added the second most, let's call it hit training nemesis, which would be the burpee. Everyone's going to say the burpee is absolutely demanding. I mean, if I got down and gave you 10 burpees right now, I could feel myself be winded.
Oh yeah.
That's just challenging. I can't even imagine 501, brother. And that's what you're calling like maybe your worst day, right? And I'm like, that is incredible. So you should have gotten a lot of love for this. I mean, if people can even understand just that task alone, the pull up, that's only half the battle. He still did the burpee and then put the two together conditionally. Were you having to take massive rest breaks in there? Because I unfortunately didn't get to see this live.
Hmm.
And now I'm going to want to go watch it back if it's still available to see.
Hmm.
But did you have to take breaks? How did you pace yourself to get to this 501?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of training for it, and typically in order for me to beat the record, I'd have to average 9.73, I believe it is. And so I was averaging 10 to 12 was my normal routine average for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. So I was like, oh, this is a cakewalk. Basically, just wanted to get at least 30 lead. That way I could take a break. I could, talk to the crowd a little bit and hype them up. Like there was a scene where my hands ripped open, and it was like when it first started happening, and it was just bleeding everywhere all over the bar. And so like I wiped my face with it, so I had blood all over my face, and I was like, trying to get the crowd going because I was still doing good then. And that's kind of what my hope was, that I could also entertain while doing it. So it's not just you watching somebody get after it and you're just like, oh, that's crazy. But I was trying to get that aspect into it. So get up by 30 and then go and just slow cruise at 9 per minute. And that way I could take a quick, 4-second breather at the end of each, sip some water, grab some chalk. And yeah, it didn't end up working out the way I wanted it to. But that's the plan, is typically you can take a break every 10 minutes for about 15 seconds.
Very cool. That answers my question, and it gives me a little bit of a remnants to what we talked about earlier. I just heard Kevin Holland come out there,
Hmm.
right? The entertainer. In between sets, he got
Yep.
up and he just went and taunted the crowd and talked and entertained the crowd. I was like, I wonder if that entertainer's in this guy. And you answered that perfectly right there. So that's pretty cool, man. I'm looking forward. Is it still available on Instagram to go see?
Yes, sir. Wolf of Gym Street 10. All my posts are on there. It's going to be under there. It's going to be me and the short American flags getting after it.
Very cool. You said Wolf of Wall Street 10?
Wolf of Gym Street.
Oh, Wolf of Jim Street. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
My buddies gave me that nickname when I first became a personal trainer. So that's like stuck with my slogan for all of my posts now, or all my social medias.
Very cool. Very cool. Our guests mean everything to us on our show. We appreciate you coming here and doing this with us, for us, but we also want to give you that notoriety and that feedback as well, because it's a two-way street here, and we definitely want to become. I mean, I need to become a follower and a fan as well. So, guys listening to the podcast, you got to see this. This sounds amazing. Very cool. I'm also hearing one more reference in there, and again, I want to get your feeling on what you think of this. Your mindset, your determination, even your Marine Corps background and stuff. I'm hearing a lot of the David Goggins,
Yeah.
and you probably hear that all the time. But what's your thoughts on him or your relationship to it? We're here to talk about you, but I want to hear your take on that mindset. And do you think he's going in the right direction? Is he inspiring young men in the right way? What are your thoughts?
I think he's the truth that you don't want to hear, and that you're just being a bitch and you're being soft. Majority of us, these roadblocks that we're putting up, we put up that roadblock and it's the most simplest thing. And you're just going to sit there and be like, it's cold outside. I'll wait to go for the run. It's raining. I'll wait to go for the run until it clears up. You're just always making excuses. And what he shows and what he embodies. So I've read both his books like 6 times. I've done his challenge, the 4x4x48. That's what got me interested. So the funny story, the first time I ever ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours was with, I was a car salesman at Thurston Honda, and I had just finished his book. So I had a 45-minute drive there and back every day. And I just finished his book on my way back, his first one, Can't Hurt Me. And in there, he had talked about, running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And I was like, well, it's 8 p.m. right now. I could do that this weekend and go back to work on Monday. And yeah, I could do that. And so I did a 4x4x48. A Friday night, started at 12, finished at I don't know if it was 8 or 12. Sunday night, slept for a couple hours, went right back to work. And it was just something very interesting because it was terribly tough. If you've never ran, by the way, I have never ran more than 3 miles in a day prior to that. And so then now you're mixing in 24 miles running a day off of very little sleep. And it was 2 full days of that, so 48 miles in total. And so I love David Goggins' mindset. I think he has a really good idea of building your will of resolve. There's a good book. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it talks about your well of resolve. Have you guys heard that before?
Mm-mm.
So your well of resolve, let's imagine a well where you get water out of, and the amount of bullshit that you've been through in your life. So all the pain, all the agony, all the hard things you've gone through. The hardest thing you've been through is the hardest thing you've been through. You've been through. Everyone has their own well of resolve. So because maybe I had a shitty childhood, my well of resolve is deeper. So I could pull from somewhere deeper where these inconveniences that might bother you doesn't bother me because I've been through much more shit. And so when you put yourself through these stressful situations, all this pain, all this agony, running outside when it's fucking raining and it's cold, that alone is going to build your well of resolve. It's going to build your toughness, your hard skin. So that's why I like doing ice baths first thing in the morning, because now there's nothing that's going to be worse than 4 a.m. ice bath. Nothing else is going to bother me. The guy cuts me off in traffic. Fuck you. I had an ice bath this morning that was way worse than you. I don't even pay attention at all. So putting hard shit in your life that you structurally do yourself helps build. So when you do go through that random event that happens, a car cuts you off, something happens, you get fired from your job, it's not that big of a deal. You're like, cool, I'll just pull from my well of resolve. I've been lower before.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to
awesome.
ask if you're still doing the ice baths on a regular basis.
Yeah, just I do them every day at 4:20 a.m. But I stopped for the last few days because my hands are ripped open, and I haven't cleaned the ice bath yet from last week. And so I just didn't. I don't think there's fungus, and I use chlorine and everything, but just didn't want to risk that one. So I'll start again on Saturday.
Right. That's cool. And if we can talk about that for a second, because I know a lot of our listeners right now, we're health and we're fitness oriented, and we're coaching mindset. We're doing a lot of things. Coach Aaron and I are trying to get the message across to overall Ultimate Man isn't just about aesthetics, and it's not just about one element of the game. I mean, there's so many different things. And now with the popularity of a lot of the biohacking, ice baths have become, worldwide. Everybody's using them. Everybody's being told that it's the next best thing. A lot of people have read a little bit deeper into the science, and some people don't know what it's for. They just do it because everybody cool is doing it. What are your thoughts? Obviously, you love the ice bath. You use it for mental benefit as well as physical benefit. But at Coach Aaron as well, you can kind of give us your feedback too at the same time. But DeShawn, when you do your ice bath stuff, the protocol, what are your main takeaways out of that? And would you advise all ages out there listening to our podcast use it?
So I'm gonna rephrase one thing. I do not love it at all. I actually hate it.
Yeah.
But I pretend like I love it, and that's kind of the biggest thing. So I think Mike Tyson said that one time. Just pretend like you love it, and that's what I do. So I go into it with a mindset every day. There's nothing about me that wants to do that. Every day I look at that thing like, oof, that's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Every day. And I always find, a little excuse here or there, like, oh, I have to take a photo before I do it. Oh, I have to do this. And then I come back and I stare at that thing like, man, dude, that's gonna suck. But then at the end of the day, you have those days where you're just, hell yeah, let's just get it. Fuck it, let's go. And so at the end of the day, it's a lot of benefits in the aspect of making you do something you don't want to do. So I think that helps translate to the real world now. Like I'll have a big issue I have to deal with work, but I have 15 little issues. Yeah, I could buff out those little 15 issues. That'll be easy for me, or I could just handle that big issue first. And that's kind of the way I look at it. This is a big issue every morning I have to go through. And it helps me as soon as I get to work. Okay, cool. It's the biggest thing I have to get done today. Let's buff that out first, and then we'll just task out the little things. And so as far as mindset, I think it's very helpful because you don't want to do it. Nobody does. And anyone who tells you they do, they're lying. They're full of shit. Nothing about that's fun. It's entertaining when you have other people there with you do it, because then you can see someone else in misery, and misery loves company.
Yeah.
So it brings joy to me to watch like anyone that thinks I don't do this, and then I have friends that'll come challenge me, like come hop in the ice bath with me. Let's have one day with me. I dare you.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to see.
You do like a routinely go to like Blue Lakes, which is this really cold lake and deep lake that we have here, and invite friends to come over and do a cold plunge there sometimes too, don't you?
Yeah. So every New Year I do one. The start of New Year about 6 a.m. I like to do it, but lately it's been getting pushed back because the more people we get coming, the more time I have to wait for people. So we've been doing it at 7 a.m. now. It's New Year's every day, 7 a.m. We go jump in Blue Lakes. It's for freezing cold. And it's very interesting to see people, because a lot of people have never done anything like that. And once again, their well of resolve is still full. They haven't been through shit. They've been catered to life. So when they jump in any kind of adversity, you just see their face change immediately. And it's very entertaining. My sister, she wouldn't even get all the way in the first time. She did it for real this time now. And it was just a beautiful thing to see. She's able to do it. And then afterwards, how proud she is of herself. Because that's something you would probably never imagined yourself doing. And then you did it. You crossed that bridge. And it's something beautiful to see.
I like that. I like that you talked about the accomplishment side of it too. It's not just the overcoming, but it's the feeling you get afterwards. We talk about this with workouts all the time. People say, "I'm not really motivated to do my workout today. I don't know what I'm missing," and they're looking for someone to come and save them, right? And then they do the workout, whatever it is, and they get through the other side and go, "Oh, I'm so glad that I did that. It felt so good." The sense of accomplishment, the release of the chemical to the brain, the reward signal is there. And I like that you said your sister, was hesitant to jump in, but then felt so accomplished afterwards.
Yep.
I think that's a really important note to make there. When you first went in, because this is great, and Aaron, if you've done ice baths too, when you first went in, guys, what was the time frame that you were in there? Was it like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or were you in there for 3 minutes the first time you ever tried it? What was your first go? Because any listener who's going, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. How long should they expect to stay in there the first time around?
You want to go first, or?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I don't really do the ice baths. I've got this super cold creek that I go into. It's called the Punch Bowl here, and I'll do this little hike down, and it's
Oh, yeah.
freaking freezing balls too, especially like this time of year. So I'll jump in there, and then now I've built up the resistance to be able to stay in there for like probably like 10 or 15 minutes at a time is plenty, and then I start getting the shivers. And you can there's even some science, I think, that you can get to the point where you get the shivers and then come out for a little bit and then go back in and kind of do some like interval training type stuff with it. But yeah, I mean, even if you can just start out as a beginner and just do it for like 5 minutes is probably plenty, especially if you're on like a full on ice bath, right?
Yeah. So, from one of the studies I read, I think it was Huberman was talking about it. He was stating that you get the same amount of benefits doing it for, I think it's a minute and a half or 2 minutes, something along those lines. Don't quote me on this. Sorry, guys. It's somewhere along those lines, but anything past, I think like 2 minutes, it's going to be the same benefits you'd get as if you were doing it at any other. But I always do 5 minutes just to be a little bit above and beyond. So even my first time doing it, like I said, I'm competitive. So I'm going to go above and beyond every time. So they said do 3 minutes, and I'm like, cool. If a little's good, then a lot's better. So I'm going to do a lot more than 3 minutes. That's kind of my mindset with a lot of this. So,
Right. So your first attempt was 5 minutes right out of the gate?
yeah, I was like, I'm ripping lips. Let's get it.
Okay. And Aaron, you said you jumped in the lake, which is super cold as well, but you were doing about 5 minutes as well.
5 minutes is good. I stayed in for one time for like 15 minutes and it was like a little overkill and I had the shivers for like an hour afterwards. So you don't take it that far if you're just starting
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also a temperature that has to kind of be met in order for the brown fat activations and things like that to really have its benefit to the body. And I'm not sure the science on that exact number, but is there a specific temperature of the water you look for, DeShawn?
Yeah, so I believe the science is under 52 degrees, I think it is. So 52 to like 40-ish, I think is
Okay.
perfect. Anything below that. And plus also if you're doing ice baths, anytime you hop in water that's 40 degrees versus 50, it feels the same. Now
Mhm.
32 with jets and like that, that's different. That's not fun at all. There's nothing cool about that. That just sucks. But as far as like the 40 to 50, it's not a big difference. You'll be
Right
fine.
on.
But yeah, under 52, I believe, is where the brown fat cells start activating.
Perfect. Yeah, I was thinking 50. For some reason, the number 56 or 57 was in my head, but 52 sounds great. They're cold no matter what. And like he said, it sucks no matter what. It's never something to look forward to, but the result, the accomplishment is awesome, which is really cool. And I think that ice bath also leads me to the topic of you're going to be submerged in water. And gentlemen listening to this, Coach Aaron and I are on you about hydration. And one of the main things DeShawn is literally preaching to help people out there is hydration. It's water. We're going to talk about that. I want to ask some questions. And I know, Coach Aaron, you had a few questions about the water and the whole mindset around the water and the purpose of it. But we also do this. When we talk hydration, we have our official Ultimate Man cheers. So I know that DeShawn and Aaron have some special drinks with them today. If you want to share with us what you're drinking today, boys, let us know. And guys around the world who are tuning in, grab your drinks. Cheers, boys.
Kompai.
Cheers. Yeah, on his Instagram, he'll take like a whole bottle like this and just down it in like a few seconds. He'll be like, drink your water, down a whole bottle.
Nice.
So that's kind of been my slogan is drink more water. It became a thing back in 2020. So when I became a personal trainer and started my meal prepping business, I started to try and think of things like what would be something funny that'd be catchy and everybody would know that's me. Drink more water became my thing. So I would just grab a water randomly. And it's back when I used to drink out of plastic water bottles. I used to grab them and I could like squeeze them together like this, whoosh, and it would just shoot the whole thing down and you just swallow it super fast. And so I was able to pound water in like 1 second. And that became like my slogan. So everybody would see me like, oh, drink more water. And that also helped bring attention to my brand, which was the meal prepping business. And then I was also doing personal training at the time. So that's kind of how that all got started. But as far as like water I drink now, I'm very different than the man I was before. And I'm very aware of admitting that. So back then I used to drink plastic. The reason you don't want to drink plastic water is there's actually a lot of microplastics. So BPAs get leaked into your water. And when you drink that, it gets into your system. Now, what are the downfalls of that? Typically, I think on average, the average American consumes a credit card worth of microplastics every week, just with all the food that we eat, all the processed food, all the plastics. And you may not even realize it, but in those water bottles, they're not made at your Safeway. They're made somewhere else. It could be overseas. And then they're put on a boat. They're sitting in the sun. They're getting moved around, crunched around. All these little microplastics are getting into your body, and that's just sitting in there. It's not benefiting you at all. So same with like a lot of soy, all this, I'm very aware of it and I stay away from all of it. So plastic water bottles, avoid those. If you're going to drink any kind of water, you want to try and find any kind of spring water that has natural minerals in it. When you get purified water sucks because of the fact that, like, how do I word this? Imagine a newly, freshly single girl, right? She goes to her first party. She might be that girl that's going to go talk to this guy, go talk to this guy. And what that is imagine purified water going down your stomach and it's grabbing all the minerals out of your body because it doesn't have anything to hold on to. So it's going to grab those minerals and pull them actually out of you and leach it from your system. So that's why you don't want to have just purified water. So a way to counter all this is you get your own spring water, or you do like me, you filter your water, goes through reverse osmosis, and then you take that same water, you let it sit in the sun for a couple of days. That way it kills everything inside of it. Glass bottle, not plastic, so it's not leaking anything. And then from there, you're going to put Celtic sea salt in it. The reason you put Celtic sea salt in it is Celtic sea salt has naturally 84 minerals within it. And so that's going to help, one, keep you hydrated. So when you get like salt into your body, it helps retain the water. And it's also going to help it digest throughout your entire system. So that's why you drink water with Celtic salt. If you're going to have purified water, use some Celtic sea salt. It's like $5. Goes a long ways. You don't need a lot, just a little sprinkle.
Nice.
So that's what we're drinking out of right now. And you could taste the difference. If once you drink one of these and then go drink a plastic water bottle, it's night and day. You're like, ugh, what are we, peasants?
Right. One question off of that right away. Is there a difference between the pink Himalayan sea salt and the Celtic sea salt?
Yes, sir. So pink Himalayan's cool, sea salt as well. There's a couple studies and they go back and forth. So it depends on where you're reading off of. So if you read Google, it might tell you something different than if you're using DuckDuckGo or if you're using Brave or whatever website you're using, even using ChatGPT. A lot of these, this is the issue, is science is not always 100% science nowadays. So sometimes it can be paid off by certain situations like the whole Kellogg situation and a few other science issues that were saying that fat's actually good for you and sugar's really good for you back in the day. There's issues with this, right? So from the studies that I've seen, Celtic sea salt's better than Himalayan sea salt in the facts of the actual metals that don't get leaked into it. So that's why I like Celtic versus Himalayan. I've read a couple. My wife, she does not listen to anything I say and will always do the opposite of what I say until she sees somebody else say it and then goes, oh, no, I get it every time. And so I think that's what wives do. They have to challenge you. And so she always challenges me on the Himalayan salt too. And so more studies I've seen show Celtic is better. There's another one I've been seeing people use now, real salt. I don't have any history. I don't know anything about it. I haven't studied it, so I don't want to speak too heavy on it. But from everything I've read, Celtic sea salt is the way to go.
Cool. I've read the same thing in regards to the trace metals that are showing up in some of the pink Himalayas because of the countries they're coming from. I think is where they're kind of saying it's in the soil, it's kind of in the ground in those countries, and it's just a trace metal that's coming in. And again, everything in small dosages. You know, most people believe to not be effective. It's not going to have any detriment on you, but it's the consumption over time. You know, that single dose.
Interest.
Yeah, the compound interest. You got it. Which brings us back to your business and everything else. I know, Coach Aaron, you got questions in regards not just in the water and salts, but also in the business aspect as well. And so for some reason, my notes just disappeared on me.
Yeah. So we got another analogy guru here. I like the analogy of the girl going to the party. He's another guy that loves analogies. Coach Lawrence is. That was a good one. That was a perfect example.
I think it helps people hold on to it. Now there's a story attached to it. So now they're locked in. Okay, cool. They will never forget that.
Absolutely, man. I was feeling it as soon as he was like, okay, well, try to picture it like this. I was like, oh, here comes an analogy. My favorite.
Like, let's go.
It's literally, it's how I teach. Literally, all my clients, when I get things through to them, it's like, and you know, you said about your wife, and for guys who are listening to this going, my wife's exactly the same. I think, you know, DeShawn was saying, it's almost like their job to challenge you and to not believe you, but the same information coming from Coach Aaron or myself might be like, oh, that's a genius idea. And you've been saying it for years, right?
So all the time.
You can let let them listen to our podcast. We'll probably reaffirm what you're already telling them, and they'll listen in. So DeShawn's information today is so valuable to all of us, and I love that you used an analogy there because, like Coach Aaron said, it resonates a little bit deeper when you can kind of picture that happening inside the body, which is super cool.
And I didn't know that about the Himalayan versus the Celtic either. So that's something new that I learned today. So that's kind of cool.
Cool, yeah. I had heard about it, but I thought with your background and like you've dove into it a little bit more, and I thought you'd probably have some reaffirming belief on that as well. And I like that you pointed out too. Google's going to show you one thing, GPT is going to give you another thing, because there's a lot of guys out there who are like, when they're thinking about hiring a coach in our aspect, in our world here for coaching and training and business even, they think they can take their own do-it-yourself route. They're going to get all the information from YouTube, or they're going to get the information from Google or whatever, build their own program, build their own nutrition, and figure it all out that way. But there's so much confusing information because you get multiple sources, and some of them are censored, some of them are paid for, some of them, it's almost like they've omitted a lot of information from certain studies just to prove their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that you pointed that out. I think that that's really important for the listeners to realize is, you're gonna hear it differently from every source that you go to. So it's important to kind of see multiple sources and look for that commonality or that common denominator. So that's cool. We're all using Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt, and now we're understanding there's a slight benefit to the Celtic side of it because of those heavy metals, which is important. Our health is.
I did a presentation, like I was saying, for the Rotary Club. So I have a full PowerPoint presentation that has written out information in regards to, I want to say Celtic sea salts in there and the Himalayan. And there's I tied studies back to everything at the end, just because people are all fact driven. And I think that's, good. Now here's your proof of where it came from, Harvard or wherever, Stanford, like places that are usually pretty reputable, I would assume. And so I could send that to you guys both, and you guys can go through it. It has all kinds of information laid out there. And then you guys can just use it if you guys want.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great too. And if you could send it to Aaron, we can also put it in the show notes if there's any studies specifically towards the Celtic sea salt. We can tag that down in the show notes as well, Perfect. Which would be awesome. And then you mentioned in there you're speaking at the Rotary clubs, which is something Aaron and I have been looking at ourselves for speaking on the way of nutrition and lifestyle and coaching for the Ultimate Man Project. And it's the Rotary club's made up of business advocates, like people who are into the business world. So can we go there and can we talk a little bit about your speaking at the Rotary clubs and why they invite you, what you talk about when you get there?
Yeah, so I have a presentation I put together on biohacking. I tied biohacking into all of it just because I think, in a sense, that's kind of what you're doing. At the end of the day, we're all trying to learn what we are. Our bodies are a car. And when was the last time you actually took the time to sit there and read the owner's manual of what actually makes you tick, what actually works for you? Like, people don't take the time to digest that and see what actually is benefiting them. I have a friend who claims he's not lactose intolerant, but every time he eats or drinks milk, he is shitting his brains out. And it's like, dude, you're lactose intolerant, bro. Stop doing it. But he doesn't take the time to study and realize that this is the issue that he gets every time he does this, right? So in a sense of, that's what I'm trying to preach to people is like, hey, take the time to study yourself. Try this. If this works, great. If it doesn't, hey, here's the studies of why I put it in here and I think it's beneficial for you. And a lot of the people that are at Rotary clubs are typically older. They're business owners and they're all kind of connected, right? And so that's why I like going there, because the older generation is the generation that's going to be retiring soon. And especially if you're in the personal fitness training, that's the generation you want to attack, especially where we live at, because it's majority elderly. And so they're all retiring soon. So if you want to get some people to start training and get set up with, that's probably your best route if you want to go for a target audience that's going to be consistent. The boomers are all retiring. That's your audience right now. Send it now while you have time. Because if you don't, I will.
Yeah, there you go.
I like what we talked about earlier too. This is a little bit of a side note, but for the listeners who are joining us, we had a little chat earlier. Coach Aaron was talking about when he got out of the MMA world, right as DeShawn was coming in. Coach, can you run that back one more time when you talked about that part?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about DeShawn, whatever he does, he likes to be the best at. And he says, like, I'm going to end up, whoever's mentoring me, I'm going to end up beating them eventually if I really get into it and have that addictive personality type thing. So it's good that we have enough age gap between us, because I was just kind of finishing up my MMA career along the times that he was just kind of starting at the gym and looking like he was going to be the next young gun badass. So I was just saying I retired just in time because I wanted to just get out the door before this guy started coming up and whooping my ass.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that again, we'll go back to MMA for a second, but you see a lot of older fighters like the 35 to 40, that range, they start to kind of leave the sport at that point. And I think this is exactly why, because there's a guy like DeShawn who comes up. He's not just younger. There's some advantage maybe to being younger, but there's more of that hunger, that
Mhm.
desire at that age. And a guy who comes up with that mindset of if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100% all out, and has those genetic advantages maybe to being a little younger. That's what really makes the difference. It's not just the young factor, but it's the mindset really is major. So DeShawn, when you go, are you still competing in anything sport wise?
So right now I'm becoming a hybrid athlete is what I'm shifting my body towards. So typically, if you're going to be lifting heavy, you're going to go body builder route, or you can go into the people who like to run a lot. You could just, your body's going to mold depend upon how you work out. I want to have a hybrid body. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to be, oh man, what is his name? I'm losing. Okay. I'll remember. Cameron Haynes is very similar too. He has a hybrid body where we're increasing our weight. So we're doing lightweight, high reps. But then
Mm.
also after I'm done with this insane workout, I'm going to go run 10 miles. So I'm trying to get into that. So I'm doing Spartan races. I have a Spartan race coming up in 2 weeks. So I'm trying to attack that. And I also want to see if I can make a run at going to, they have it's like playoffs. I didn't even realize this was a thing. But if you get first place in a few rankings, you can go to Saudi Arabia and you can become a sponsored athlete. So that's a route I'm looking at right now, as well as attacking that. I'm going to go for more Guinness World Records. So those are kind of my competitions. I was doing pickleball. I was playing competitively for a little bit. I took gold medal in like a 3.0 and something I was doing, but it just takes time. And I
Mm.
think one of the issues I have is I don't have a lot of time anymore. And, it's all based on me, but all the things that I'm working on take up a lot of my time, and I have to spend time with my family too, which is one thing that I do leave on the back burner sometimes. So it's something I got to work better at. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how to alter my time to get towards what I want, which is the hybrid athlete style. Want to become a sponsored athlete. I'm going to become, is a better way of wording it. And
Mhm.
it's more Guinness World Records. I want to cement a legacy.
That's amazing. You got a hell of a vision for the things you're going to be doing. And of course, we always talk about setting goals and having them in place so you know what you're looking to achieve, not just, throwing hopes out there, but actually having a plan and structure. There was a question I wanted to ask you in regards to your upcoming, desires, I guess the things that you are looking to set, your goals that you've set. And you were talking about the business side of things, but there's also some politics you were talking about potentially
Mhm.
getting into. What's the ambition there? Where's that background come from?
So here's what we hear everybody say, right? And I was the same person, is, oh, we hate California. The politics are getting so bad. Oh, we hate this. Look, we can't do this in our town. We're getting da 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 da. And what do? They leave. So that's the issue, right? You're just leaving. So, and that I was on the same mindset. We're looking at property in Arizona. We're looking at property in Texas. We're looking at property in Puerto Rico. Like, we were looking to get out of California just in general. And I got sick and tired of that. It's like, dude, but this is where all my support's at. Why not switch that over? And since nobody else wants to do it, once again, I'll do it. And so that's the way it kind of boiled down to. And I've been talking to a lot of police officers. I talk to a lot of people. My job is I do sales. So I talk with business owners all day. And so I seem to have the same mindset as a lot of them. And they're on the same boat, like, oh man, I kind of want to get out of here too, kind of over it. But maybe I can help shift that. And at least I won't be bought out. That's something that I think is very important with politics. I can't be bought out. I'm going to have my own businesses running here soon. They're already in prototype phase. They're going to be making money. I don't need other people's money. I'll be just fine running it myself. And I think it's something that not a lot of other politicians can say for themselves.
That's cool.
So that's the
Coach
politics
Aaron?
side.
Coach Aaron, any questions or thoughts on that?
I just wanted to look. You were talking about some startup companies and stuff, and
Mhm.
I wasn't really familiar exactly what that all entails and what they're, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper about what you're
Of
got
course.
going on with that.
Yeah, so right now I have two startups I'm working on, and one of them is, it's in prototype phase. I have a patent going on it right now. It's a way to reseal cans. So I don't know if you guys drink energy drinks. I do. When you have an energy drink, a lot of the time you pop the can and you start to take a sip, right? But what happens when you set it back down is, I, for example, do sales, or I'm working out, or I'm doing something. By the time I come back, the carbonation's gone, or maybe a bug got into it, or just in general, there's always something happening. Like, it's gonna just leak out the carbonation. It's gonna get warm fast. What if I had a way to reseal that after you popped it? And so that's what my business model went into. It started with my daughter, because I would have like a carbonated water or something on the counter. She would reach up and start trying to reach her hand in there, and I was worried about her cutting her finger. And so I found a way to, like, I wonder if there's anything that I could buy that could just reseal this. No. I was like, oh, well, guess what? Problem. Here's a solution. I create a solution. Now I have a business. That's how you
Mhm.
start a business. Find a problem, create a solution. Now find a way to monetize that and sell it. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. So going through that right now, it's a work in progress. It takes some time. If you've never prototyped a business before, it's never done the first time. It's going to take 7 or 8 iterations before you get an actual product that's feasible to sell. So that's one product I'm working on. The next one is we have a website we're putting together. It's going to include clothing line, which is going to be kind of target audience is going to be the military and fitness aspect. So it's going to be mainly military though. And I'm doing it with a bunch of my military friends. So we're still in startup phase with that one, which we don't even have a website up or anything yet. So we're just getting that going right now. But that's something that's been taking a lot of my time lately too.
That's a great idea with the water, having a sealed thing over there, and that just came to you like by time trying to protect your girl.
Yeah.
That's a great idea,
man.
bro.
That's amazing. There's the thought of fatherhood there. The protective dad steps up and needs a solution. There's the entrepreneur who steps up and goes, I could turn this into something I could sell. I mean, it's amazing how your mind functions. It's so admirable, man. I love it. It's so great, DeShawn. We were talking about the business, and I want you to just kind of speak to our listeners right now who are businessmen on two aspects. Give them any business advice that you feel you'd like to leave as a message, because this, like you said, this episode is going to last forever on the internet, all over the world. What would be your message to the businessmen out there on a business aspect? And then part 2 of that question, when those businessmen are needing to get healthy, get fit, and into the right world of, like, you know, maybe getting a coach, or maybe just taking on a journey of building lean muscle mass, whatever it is, how are they going to fit that into their busy businessman lifestyle? That would be part 2 of the question. But we'll go ahead and take your business advice first.
So business advice, nobody knows shit. And that's something that's very important that I don't think people realize. A lot of us are scared to step up in the next role in our business or our job, whatever it is, because we think we're not ready. We don't know. But the people who are above us, they didn't know either. Most people are not actually ready for that role. But you know what they do? If no one else is going to do it, fuck it, I'll do it. They're going to send it, right? So that's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to fail. Dude, failure is awesome. I always say this. If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail going at a dead sprint so I fall forward. Because I think it's better to fall forward than fall backwards in the business. So we fall forward every chance we get. So 1, don't be afraid to step up. 2, fall forward. And 3, don't quit. That's where a majority of us, that's the difference between most of us. You have an idea. Think about how many business ideas died in a graveyard, and they wish that they would have just went with it and changed their life, right? We only have a certain amount of time on this earth. Spend it wisely, and don't waste your time doing things you don't want to do. Learn to say no. Focus on you. Get yourself right. Once you are right, then you focus on helping others get right. So that's the biggest thing. It's like if you're in an airplane that's about to crash and the things come down, what do they say? Do first. Put your mask on first, get yourself right, and then help others next to you. So that should be your goal with business. Find a problem, create a solution, become the best version of yourself, help others.
Well said, brother. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the business advice is there. That's some amazing, again, it's mindset, but it's so much about, you know, like there's been so many little memes and infographics of a guy with a pickaxe, and he's going
I love that
through,
one.
you know what I mean? And he's going through, and then it just shows him kind of like hauling ass back home. He's exhausted, he's sweating, and it shows how far in he dug. And there's a diamond, a big diamond right on the other side of where he stopped. And he leaves and he's heading back home, right? Like, I'm done. I can't take any more. And that sounds exactly like what you were just saying. It's just in that little image, right? And then the other guys on the other side, like, reaching the diamond because he didn't quit. He was like that one little bit extra. But you know the one I'm talking about. You've seen that little meme and that little graphic before. That's exactly what I pictured when you were speaking about that business aspect. And I think that goes for fitness too. A lot of people are just on the verge of that breakthrough and they give up. So I'd love to hear your take now. You get a businessman who comes in and says, I'd like to work out. I'd like to get fit. I'd like to get healthy. I just don't have time, man. I am so busy. Like, business is occupying my life, and I still have to try and balance family. You're a dad. You got a family life as well. How do you balance it all? How does it work? And what would your advice be to those guys?
Call you guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you call somebody who's a professional in this aspect. So
don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and it helps us grow our channel so we can bring you more great episodes and some really great guests for the future. Also, if you're interested in working with Aaron and I and you want to gain some information and experience from us, then always reach out in the best way that you can. And that is going to be to get involved in the forum. You get a chance to mastermind with the entire group of men like yourself who are in it to win it. Gentlemen, there's no better place to be. If I wanted to get involved, this is where I would start. Get into the Ultimate Man Forum, and we will see you on the inside.
I think this is an issue people have too. They try to do everything themselves, right? And I have the same issue because once again, like I said, I'm competitive. So I thought I was going to become a prototyper too. I was going to learn how to prototype my business myself. I was going to learn how to 3D print. I was going to learn how to do a whole CAD 3 model. I was going to learn how to write a business plan, get all this by myself. And I started to do all that. And I realized this takes a lot of extra time that I don't have. And it's going to be worse than if I was to just pay somebody who's already professional in it, knows how to do it, can get it done in way shorter amount of time. Yeah, you're paying that upfront investment, but you're going to get a better ROI out of it because now you don't have wasted time. Now your time spent elsewhere on what matters truly, which is making memories with your family and your kids. So yeah, find a personal trainer, but find somebody that you trust and have ideas that like are equal on, right? So what I mean by that is like, we're all into the fighting and fitness. That's awesome. So now we have rapport built up automatically. If I needed a training coach, I would call you guys because now I know that we align on certain ideas. So that'd be perfect because now we have more to talk about. Now I'd be more interested. Now I'm looking forward to go training with you too. So
that's great. Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that health? Okay, so here's something I'm listening to a lot, and I see this a lot on across Instagram. I started following Andy Elliott, and he was a car sales guy. He's very aggressive in his approach, but I've noticed in the last, I'm going to say the last year, the switch that he made, it went from being great at the sales aspect to a real fitness and body image focus. Like he seems to be getting ripped out of nowhere. I mean, he was in good shape before. Now he's looking jacked. He's doing most of his Instagram stuff in like shorts and a tank top. He's speaking at like car sales conferences and he's practically wearing a gym attire instead of a business suit. And he's just talking about like, he's asking guys like, take your shirt off. You know what I mean? And like, let's see what you look like. And he's having them take it off and he goes like, looking like that, do you think someone's going to buy the credibility? Now, again, like, what do you feel about that, DeShawn? Do you think that the businessmen should be putting their health obviously on the top pedestal here? And would it accelerate their business? Would it generate more sales? Do people judge when they look at you, DeShawn, as a fitness or as the person they're buying from? Do they see past that and just buy the product? What are your thoughts on all of that, if we could kind of frame that in your mind?
People hate the truth, and that's what's crazy. Andy's slapping you with the truth just like David Goggins is doing. If you're fat and you know you're fat, accept that you're fat. You need to understand that. You need to look in the mirror and understand who you are and how to get better. If you and I are walking down the street, me and some super skinny looking dude, we're both wearing the same attire, and someone comes to rob us, they're going to rob you over me because I am in shape and I'm going to look big and scary, right? So you have to build a strong body to fight off the predators and then a strong mind to fight off yourself. It's very important that you're in shape. It's only going to benefit you. I see videos all the time that disgust me of like, there's this one video I watched the other day. This lady, she was getting ready to put her baby in the car. She's fat and obese and the cart starts to slip away and is falling into traffic and she slips and falls and she's too big. She keeps trying to get up, but she's too big and the baby's going right for traffic, right? Luckily, a bystander come by and stops it from happening. But just in general, it's situations like that. It's better to be in shape, be able to get up off the ground, go grab it, stop that from happening. It's better for that. And also as an image, you're going to buy from me over buying from somebody who's big and obese because one, you're going to understand I have one thing that he doesn't, discipline. I'm obviously disciplined. That's why my body looks like this. That's why I look like this. That's why I speak the way I speak. I think before I speak. A lot of the time, these bigger guys, hey, they're probably lazy. And people, if you think people don't judge you, everybody judges you. That's a part of our nature. We had to judge because back in the day, if we were in the woods, we hear a sound, we see something, and it's a freaking tiger. You need to know, is that beneficial or is that thing going to eat me? So everybody's judgmental. They try to say not to be, but no, judging is important. It lets you know whether a guy's hostile, whether they're not. So I think it's beneficial to, yes, be in shape. Everyone's going to take you differently. They're going to understand your discipline. They're going to probably listen to you better than they are if you're obese.
That's great. So the guys listening to this who are business individuals, we're talking about the fitness and business relationship here. And we want to make sure that you're understanding that fitness and your image is going to be judged, and that's going to be natural. That's not something that we can avoid. It's going to be, when I look at Coach Aaron, I'm going to be seeing a specific thing. And I think if this guy's out of shape, how can he teach me fitness? He can't even get his own fitness together, right? And I think about mechanics, and I'm like, I've seen a lot of mechanics who are very good at fixing your car, but they drive an absolute piece of crap. It backfires going down the street. It's got a gas cap missing. I mean, it just looks terrible. And they're like, I'm too busy to fix my own. I'm busy fixing everybody else's. right? And so they drive this and they're like, "Are you sure that guy can fix your vehicle? He doesn't, he
Yeah.
doesn't appear to know how to fix his own." So sometimes I guess it could go both ways. In that case, that he'd be good at fixing it, but doesn't take the time to fix his own. But you're saying we always need to make time to fix our own first. Put your own mask on, save yourself first. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool.
It's here's a way I kind of word it too. So another analogy for you. Imagine you're about to date a girl, right? You're single, you and this girl are start dating. You just had a bad relationship, you're broken up. So now imagine yourself as a puzzle piece and your pieces are broken up, right? They're broken, they're on the floor. She's broken from her last relationship. And now you guys are both broken. You guys are going to think, oh, you know what we're going to do? Two broken people, we're going to build each other and help that. But the issue is now you're going to take puzzle pieces from her puzzle and put it on you, vice versa over here. So your puzzle never really gets put together correctly. So if you want to get into a relationship and be able to give them everything that you can offer, you need to become the best version of yourself first. You need to know who you are. Read your own owner's manual, know everything that ticks about you. So that way, when you do meet with them, you can have these tough discussions beforehand and you're not putting it on the back burner. And then what happens, you end up splitting up 10, 15 years down the road instead of having those conversations in the beginning, being set up, let them know, this is my line in the sand. This is who I am. And everybody knows now, and you're not just changing.
That's good. That's good. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
One of the things Coach Aaron wanted to talk about today, and again, Coach Aaron, you can ask this in whatever framework you want, but there seems to be a bit of you talked about the broken puzzle pieces, and a lot of people out there are broken these days, and it seems to be becoming more of an epidemic. Like there's more and more people who are falling victim mentality. They're getting more, like there's some of them blame the government and the changes in the economy, and it's catering to a certain class of people and trying to destroy the others. And again, all that aside, what are your thoughts on why we're in this mental health crisis? Where a lot of people are feeling victim, and then for any listeners who are in that state right now, who are saying, "I want to try to be better. I'm being inspired by what you guys are talking about today, but I don't know that I could do this." Again, let's try and frame it so that there's some inspiration. Of course, that's what you do, DeShawn. You're an inspirational dude. But why do you think we're in this position for mental health and victim mentalities and struggle? And then how might we come out of that?
I think we're in this problem because at the end of the day, what gets clicks on social media, what gets attention? Like we have those friends on Facebook that'll sit there and vent, oh my God, my day is so bad. So then what happens? You have 10 people comment on there, oh bro, I hope you feel better. It's just seeking attention because misery loves company. And so I think that that's what's getting attention. And that's what people are searching for is just attention. They just want to be heard. And that's a lot of the time, that's what it is, right? So a lot of the military groups, like you won't see a lot of them venting on social media. A lot of them are probably going through some things. And I call my guys on a monthly basis, at least just to check in with them. Hey bro, how are you? How's your mental health? I'm not afraid to ask those questions. But that's what gets attention on social media is people actually showing that, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm depressed, look at this sucks. And they're just glorifying it. But have you ever read the book Law of Attraction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So by Esther Hicks, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, that's one of your first steps you should do in life. Read the book, Law of Attraction, and start focusing on that because at the end of the day, what you attract is what you're going to get, right? So it's falls into the same theory of the red car theory. Have you heard that?
Yep.
Good. So have you told your listeners that yet?
You know what? Cover the red car theory because I don't know if we've actually covered it in a
Okay.
specific. We may have made an analogy reference to it, but go ahead and kind of break that down.
So the red car theory is the idea that if I was to ask you, Aaron, so on your way to, let's say, Cobb, and let's say you just drove to Cobb, and I was to ask you, how many red cars did you see?
Probably wouldn't be paying attention and seeing any of them.
Good. Good. And why is that? So now if we were to shift that and I was to tell you, hey, I'll give you $100 for every red car you see on your way to Cobb, you'd probably see every red car, right?
Hell yeah.
So that's the idea. A lot of us aren't looking for the opportunities. We're just kind of on autopilot coasting through life. We're letting social media control our minds. We're letting ourselves just happen. Whatever happens is what happens. We're not controlling what we want. So if you start thinking about what you want, hey, I want to start a business. Well, how do I start a business? I have to find a problem. So if you start searching for that, you'll see that everywhere. There's so many business opportunities. There's so much money to go around. People don't realize it's not that complicated, but you have to look for it first. You have to be ready for it to come to you. And that's what it's talking about. It's kind of like the universe is going to give what you put in, right? So if you're a good person, good things come to you. If you're going to be a negative person, you're going to cry about yourself stubbing your toe. And then a little bit later, you're going to run into the door. You're going to get irritated. Someone's going to cut you off. And it's just negative things compounding. It's the same aspect with this law of attraction. You can attract positive things compounding. My life's awesome. I say it all the time. I'm beyond lucky. I'm beyond blessed. Life treats me so well. I'm the luckiest person you'll ever meet. I say that all the time because, dude, good things just happen to me all the freaking time. And so I think that's a big thing people need to take an advantage is start speaking highly of yourself. Look in the mirror, tell yourself the truth. If you're fat, tell yourself you're fat, but tell yourself what you want though. I want to be better. I'm going to get better. So from the want to the going, and start doing it every day. It's not going to happen fast. It's going to be slow. It's going to be painful. It's going to suck. It's going to be miserable. But that's what's great about it. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
So true. Incantation. Coach Aaron, how do you want to frame that? Because I know we wanted to ask about manifestation and incantation. How would you frame that question?
Well, just what you focus on expands is exactly what he's talking about, and kind of along the same lines. And going back to the burpee challenge, another question I had for him real quick too is like,
Mhm.
what is your mindset when you're in those challenging situations doing the burpee pull up and your freaking hands are bleeding and you're at, rep number 400 and you still got another 173 to go and you're just like body's hurting. Like, what are you saying to yourself to keep that positive mindset when the little demon comes in and says, "Ah, man, you can just fucking quit if you want to," you know?
Yeah, I have a few things I say to myself. One of them is good. Every time something bad happens, good. Like in the military, that's our slogan is, oh, good. So we're going to get out there. They're going to be like, okay, cool, guys. Show up to the armory at 0400, but we don't draw rifles till 0715. Oh, good. Good. Great. Every problem it's going to happen. With every problem, there's a new opportunity somewhere. You just have to look for it. So good. We're going to get there a little bit earlier, but now I get to train my guys a little bit more before we get set up there. So it's all a mindset thing. When I'm going through that painful shit, I'm just sitting there smiling in my head. Good. Lesser men have done less. I plan to get this. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep pushing. At the end of the day, just manifesting it in. It's going to happen. Keep going. Don't stop. One more rep. One more rep. Especially like in the military, you'll go on like these hikes that are outrageous. Maybe it's a 20K, 25K, whatever it is, with all this weight on your back and you're sitting there crying, bitching, and moaning. You're mad. And then you look to your left and there's a guy smaller than you pumping the same amount of weight. It's like, why am I crying? People have been through so much worse than what I'm going through right now. Suck it up. Build that
Mhm.
well resolve a little deeper. Quit crying. It is what it is. It's going to suck. Nobody said life is supposed to be perfect and beautiful all the time. It has to suck because with misery comes joy. And there wouldn't be any joy without pain. You wouldn't understand light without dark. You need these things to make it understandable.
Nice. I
That's
love that his incantation is just good. That's like mine. Like mine are like less than 3 words, like "I got this," or something short and sweet. Something you don't have to like think about. It's just like your go-to. Good. Bring it. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Throw me to the
I've got
wolves.
a uh,
Yeah.
I've got a boxing student over in the United Kingdom, and they listened to one of our last episodes, and that was actually the takeaway from the whole episode was Coach Aaron saying, "I got this." That's the incantation. He said,
Mhm.
"That was just something I've never really heard and simplified to that degree." And he said, like as a fighter and this was the father of the fighter, he had listened to it with my young fighter. They listened to the podcast together on their drive, and he said that was the takeaway, man. It was that incantation of simplifying, turning every situation into, I got this. Why am I questioning it? Why should I be getting caught up in all the little small nuance of all of it and just focus on I got this? And something even more simple is to put it into like, good, turn every bad into an opportunity. Good. I'm glad that happened. It's an opportunity for growth. I think that's so awesome. On the manifestation part of it as well, I noticed, Coach Aaron, you had mentioned you guys grew up in the same town, right? From the same place?
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of friends fall prey to drugs and bad lifestyle. And maybe again, that might be something they're incanting to themselves regularly about who they are. They're a loser. This is who the drug life is all they know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the mindset because that's not the path that I was down. But Coach Aaron, you can speak more to that because you had friends who went through that journey personally. And then we'd like to get DeShawn's thought on like, did you observe any of that in your generation growing up as well?
Yeah, real quick, like when I grew up, there's several years between us, so like, but we come from the same place. And when I was growing up, this place was just infested with like just drug overuse in the schools, like real big methamphetamine, speed problem, cocaine. And I think it's still probably pretty prevalent. So I know that I lost a lot of friends to like overdose or like suicide or going to jail and stuff. Like a lot of my good friends are just gone now. And I was wondering if he kind of experienced a lot of that same stuff growing up, and I don't think you fell prey to getting into that drug scene like I did at all.
Mm.
So maybe what was the difference in like kind of like, you know, first of all, did you see that growing up yourself? Was that still kind of prevalent?
Yeah.
And if so, kind of like, how did you keep yourself from getting there? So maybe some of our listeners that are going through the same experience can kind of, shy away from that.
I definitely think that any kid can be manipulated, right? They're just not wise yet. They don't have that wisdom. But I do think I had a different mindset as a kid growing up. So I was never really too interested in it. Like, yeah, I like to party, I like to drink, I like to, go smoke some weed when I was younger. Like, yeah, that's what I used to do. But not so much as like I never was interested in, oh, let's take shrooms. Oh, let's do some LSD. Oh, let's possibly, I'm cool off all that. I just don't need that. And I think I just got lucky. Maybe I just, like I said, I was just a little bit wiser than they were. I just didn't see the benefit in it. Didn't ever really want to get into it. I knew a lot of people that were doing it, but just wasn't my thing. So maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I just, I don't know. I was in the right area to do it, if that makes sense. Like I hung out with a lot of kids that were doing those things, but I just separated myself away from them. Just didn't see the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, we use that too. I love that saying, and I think we used that on a recent episode. Actually, I was trying to get it right. I was like, "Is that how it said, Aaron? Juice worth the squeeze?" So,
Good old Chael Sonnen.
yeah, I've heard a lot of people using
that guy.
Yeah.
We've spoken directly about this whole drug, and we always say you become the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and that it seems to be you'll be the 6th in whatever circle you follow. And I think that brings us to the conversation of maybe role models. DeShawn, you've got this mindset, and we've made it very clear over the last duration of this podcast that your mindset is like very, very high achieving. Set your mind, set your goals, get your mind in a positive state. Where did that begin? Where did that come from for you? Like you just born and that was it? That's your belief? Or did you have a father figure? Because there's a lot of guys listening to this go, hey, my dad was a piece of shit. He beat my mom. He abused me. I'm a victim. And they make that their life story and they follow that path and they become an abuser. They abuse drugs. They abuse spouses and children and everything else. What was your upbringing? Did you have a role model who was very influential in this, or did you form this yourself? Tell us about that.
I would never talk down on, family members and things. So I do believe that I don't think I had that role model. Nobody I know growing up was like who I am today. So I didn't take inspiration from family members or anything like that. I just knew that this life that we have now is not what I want for my family and my kids growing up. I want it to be better. And so that's kind of the mindset of what it was, is I'm not going to listen to somebody tell me how to live my life when the life that you're living is not beneficial. It's like a teacher trying to tell you how to make $1 million when she's driving a Camry. You don't know what you're talking about. That's an issue I had with schooling too. You'll go to school to learn how to do a job, but they're not teaching you how to do the job. They're just teaching you a book. And then when you get to the job, you're doing something completely different. And that's, it's hard to listen to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And so I didn't take inspiration from anybody necessarily there. I wasn't into comic books or anything that really had a good, strong leader growing up to watch after. I think maybe I was just searching for one. So maybe that's what benefited me, just always searching for like, dude, who could I emulate? And that's probably when I started to fall in love with like listening to people like Goggins, the mindset. I love that. I'm very attracted to the mindset aspect of everything. Cameron Haynes has a great mindset. Jocko Willink, all these military cats. I didn't start listening to them until probably like 6 years ago though, but more so that's more new for me. I never really had a role model that I can say.
And I love that you mentioned like Esther Hicks and the law of attraction in there too, because you got like the one aspect of like, the David Goggins, but like Esther Hicks is like this totally different kind of, but she's awesome as well. Yeah. Check out the law of attraction if you haven't seen it. It's a whole different mindset. That's pretty cool.
That brought to mind for me The Secret, which I think is along the same.
Yeah.
You guys are familiar with The Secret and all the speakers that were in there. And the idea of like attracts like, and the law of vibration and everything else. It's again, it's in the biohacking world quite a bit now as well. All of that. Again, I might get it wrong here. Is it a PMF mat that for grounding that can be used inside the house? We were talking about it. Aaron, you've got one, I think, a small mat that you can put down. And I might be wrong about it, like pulse magnetic field or whatever it is from the Earth's surface. But it's something that a person can bring into their home now if they're not able to get outside. Have you heard of that, DeShawn? Am I on the right track there with the device?
Yeah, is it a PMF or an EMF?
It could be EMF.
It's electromagnet. Well, so the idea, they're beneficial. They're great. A lot of people are getting into it. That's not the right name. Gary
Recca, right?
Recca, that guy. He talks about it pretty highly, and he seems to know what he's talking about. If you hear somebody speak and they're using a lot of scientific base and they know how to talk, either they've studied learning how to talk or they probably know what the hell they're talking about. He seems to know what the hell he's talking about. So I like to follow him and what he's talking about. Seems to be beneficial, everything with it. I don't know the full studies. I just did a quick little brief run over them, heard about them, looked into them, haven't purchased one. Do I plan on purchasing one? Yes, in the future, I probably will. But I also think it's more beneficial for those who live like in cities and can't get outside and actually put their feet on the ground. So I think that was the idea for making him officially.
Yeah.
Cool. One of the other things, and again, we really focus on health and nutrition on our podcast to help guys bring the best out of themselves. And we've been talking about business role models. One of the guys who seems to be maximizing the business model and maximizing a hell of a fitness model as well, physique-wise, is Alex Hormozi. I'd like to hear your take on business and fitness, Hormozi style, and how you relate in feeling like, do you follow that type of method? What are your likes or dislikes about that?
Yeah, I think once again, so every person that you've mentioned today, I listen to. I'm full force. Like most of my time, I don't listen to music. If I do, it's because I'm in the car with my wife and she doesn't like to listen to podcasts or audibles all day. And so that's what I listen to. And Alex Hormozi is one of those guys. Like I just finished his book, Gym Hacks or Gym Secrets. I think it's Gym Hacks.
Secrets, yeah.
Or Gym Launch. Thank you. That's what it is. Gym Launch. So I just finished that book. Great book. He's wise. He's obviously knows what he's talking about. He's making a lot of money. He's doing it all correctly. He's not an idiot. And the way he speaks is he's telling the truth. And too many people want to be kissed with a lie than slapped with the truth. And just freaking eat it, man. It is what it is. Accept it. He's telling the truth. He's telling you what to do. Listen and do it. The people, they give you this blueprint. You hear it. So this is the issue. Is a lot of fat people, for example, I rip fat people all the time because it bothers me. When you ask me how to get in shape, you know what to do. You just choose not to. You know, don't eat at McDonald's. Why are you at McDonald's? These are the issue. Everybody knows what to do, but they don't do it. So that's your discipline. It's not intact. He talks a lot about discipline as well. Just do it, man.
That's awesome. Coach Aaron and I have done some work with the Hormozi stuff as well. Like, so we're using that in our business as well. And recently we've got the school platform and things that Coach Aaron's been working with. So I wanted to kind of ask about that because it crosses over business and fitness. And he seems to be another one you want to surround yourself with who's at the top of the game, right? So many people have stolen his material, his style of, Instagram and everything else. But there's so many aspects to the journey, and he's obviously come a long way with the whole gym launch thing. I like your line in there. You said, kissed with a lie rather than slapped with the truth. Where'd you get that from? Is that something you came up with, or is that something you heard?
A lot of what I say and hear and do, I don't know if I made it up. My brain is like, there's so much in here. I don't know where it came from. It could have been, I could have read it from somewhere. It's probably a quote from somebody, to be honest. And I'm not giving them the credit I should be, but I could have made it up. I don't know. But for the sake of the argument, I guess I made it up. Yeah. I don't know.
Cool. That's funny because the reason I asked it that way is because Aaron and I say this all the time. When you work with us as coaches, you're working with all the coaches we've ever worked with. So you're making an investment. And again, I like that you framed it earlier as well, DeShawn, with about, return on investment, the ROI. The investment is in saving time and speeding up the process, getting to that result a lot faster, because people who say, I don't have time, that's what you need more of than going to invest to save time. Working with a coach, though, you get the value of all the coaches they've worked with, all the books they've read that you don't have to go read, all the podcasts they've listened to, hours upon hours that you don't have to go listen to, right? And so when I asked you that question, that's kind of what I was listening for was, did you come up with that yourself, or is that something that you may have created in a collection of 7 different coaches you heard from? And when you say that to me, I get that one thing from you in a second, and I'm like, this is genius. Kissed with a lie rather than slapped with the truth. That's amazing. But that might be a compilation of 7 different coaches you've worked with or listened to, right? And that's how valuable saving time is right there. That took me a second to hear that, right? And that's why I say when Aaron speaks, I'm listening because he's got so many coaches he's worked with. And when I speak, same thing. We want to bring that value in one person, speaker, and hear, thousands of great speakers before them. So I think that was super cool that when you didn't even know if you created that or if it's something you heard, it's hard to give credit because a lot of times we do form, things that we've collected into one statement and you become the guy who said it. So when Aaron, earlier, you made a comment about the person you heard that saying from about the juice is worth the squeeze, Chael Sonnen, right? I heard that from something in one of the Andy Elliott things. And where did you get it from, DeShawn?
Once again, what I'm listening to is insane. I have tons of books on Audible and I'm constantly bouncing back and forth between them. Podcasts, I'm listening to at least like 12 people. And then same with just everywhere, YouTube, wherever. So I have no idea. I feel bad because I wish I did know.
I love this though, because this is the proof that it's all an accumulation of surrounding yourself with greatness. And you're going to hear that message from multiple different sources. And if, like you said earlier, if it's the wife trying to hear it from you, she's not going to hear it.
Yeah.
If she hears it from Aaron, she'll hear it. And this goes for all of us. We have a tendency to listen to people we really connect with, and that's it. And not to say that your wife doesn't connect with you, but there's something to be said about the fact that they just don't believe it when it comes from you. You're just, what do they say? You can't be a something in your own village. You can't be a
Big fish.
yeah, kind of like a soothsayer, or a person who knows it all, an expert, or I can't remember the exact quote, but in your own village, you're just known as DeShawn. In your own village, you're just Aaron. And you leave the village and you're the top speaker in the world. All of a sudden, everybody wants to hear from you, but in your own village, you can't be that person. That's kind of like that frame of doing that and speaking to your relatives or your loved ones. A lot of times they won't listen to you. So guys, listen to the podcast. If you've been told you need to get fit and healthy and you're hearing this for the first time because someone else told you to be here, then we want to make sure that you're obviously becoming a subscriber, listening to the show. Share this show if you have a friend who needs to hear DeShawn's message today or needs to get more information from Coach Aaron and myself. As we continue to put the message out there to guys across the world, we want to make sure that everybody's sharing this podcast and helping us grow, but also getting the right message out there to the world. And you're collecting greatness from two coaches and guests like DeShawn today, who have heard from multiple coaches before them. And you're getting a chance to invest all of that into one amount of time you're investing right now.
Yeah, like you're saying, you're consolidating decades into days, is I think how you usually put it. You're getting all the information that's in DeShawn's head and our head, and that's just taken over years and years and thousands of podcasts and hours, and watching one episode and taking away just a dozen golden nuggets from it,
Mm-hmm. That's
the
wrong
room. My bad. I think you're in the wrong room if you're not with people that are smarter than you, and you're not hanging out with people that you could learn from.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point too. I've heard that before. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
It's continuing to grow. And if something's not growing, it's dying, right? Mm-hmm. So always looking for growth. That's the key. And I've always heard the 1% better, the one more rep. Ed Mylett uses the one more as a concept. That's his book, as his concept. And these are great leaders. These are great people doing great things. And guys listening to this, you don't have to look at just us as great guys and leaders, but we're trying to tell you that we're bringing in from all over the place, all that information, those great leaders. So DeShawn, the last part of all our interviews, unless Coach Aaron, there's something else we've missed that you really wanted to dive into before we get to the final thought and the final closing. Is there anything that you wanted to ask?
I think we've covered a ton, brother. I think we're good. Yeah.
So much greatness in here. So we're going to give DeShawn the floor here and give him a chance to leave a message with all of you, the listeners out there, and what it would take to become the ultimate man, and his thought on at least 3 things that are actionable or something you need to get started on focusing on. So frame the ultimate man out there. What would he look like to you? And what would the vision be so that every guy out there can start working towards this? And the three things they'll need to be doing and focusing on. What is it going to be? You take the floor, my man, and run with it and leave a message to the world that'll be here forever.
I have a couple messages for you guys. 1, be the man you needed growing up in life. That should be what you're striving to be, the man you needed. So that way, when you have kids, you can give that to them because that's what you needed growing up, right? So that's 1. 2, I'm going to leave with something that I talked with one of my mentors that I'm being mentored by right now. And he says, use the 4 F's in life, right? So imagine a car with 4 tires, and each tire is going to be equivalent to 1 F. So 1 will be your finance, your fitness, your family, and it's finance, fitness, family, and faith. So all 4 of those. If you have all 4 of those in a line, your car can drive smoothly. But if all 4 of these aren't being worked on, and you don't know, like let's say you're falling off on your fitness, you're starting to get fat, well, now you need to change your tire because your car's not going to move. So you have to make sure all 4 of these are always in a line. So make sure you're always allocating time to your family, to your fitness. You need to focus on you, to your finances, because without money, probably going to be kind of tough, right? So you have to make sure all 4 of these are always in a line. And those are the 4 things you focus on, are the 4 F's: faith, family, finance, and fitness. Faith doesn't have to be within a religion either. That could be just having faith in yourself and the people around you and helping uplift the community with you. That's my parting message.
Love it.
Let that sink in, gentlemen listening to the call right now. Write it down: finance, fitness, family, faith, the 4 F's. And I love that it's an analogy too, man. That sits with me, right? I picture the vehicle, I picture the 4 tires. Love that. And, so here, and again, just leaving that thought, when one tire blows out, you don't get out and slash the other 3 and give up, right? You go and you repair that tire, get back on the road.
Yeah.
Too many guys, I think, give up when one tire blows out. I love that you framed it that way. That's awesome. And be the man you needed growing up. That's so deep, man. I think that's really important. Aaron, you probably resonate with that as well. I know I did. We always look for a role model early. We talked about all of our role models in previous episodes. And today we talked about role model fighters, people we align with. We saw ourselves in them. What a great episode, gentlemen. I love this, man. And I hope that the guys listening to this enjoyed the episode as much as I did. It's just incredible to get guests like you on here, DeShawn. We're super stoked about when you get back from your next deployment and you're, getting into the political world, if that's the way you choose to go and you're running for politics. I mean, or you're tackling the next Guinness record, going at it again. 573, you can do it. You already proved you can do it. On your day, you're going to do it, and we're going to be there to watch that. That's so badass, man. Absolutely. I'm a fan. I'm looking forward to following on your Instagram. Coach Aaron, final thoughts in regards to the Ultimate Man podcast. What should our listeners be looking for and listening for?
Yeah, I would just like to say it's been a pleasure watching this kid grow up from just a young gun to the fine young man that he is now. And he's got a great message that he shared with all of our listeners today. I would really watch this, take some notes, gentlemen, and start applying the stuff that he's been just, harping on, because it's a true story. He's a living example of, working hard and putting in the due diligence that it takes to become, the ultimate version of yourself. And like you said, you're going to have your setbacks. You're not going to make all of the records that you want to get, but you're just going to come back stronger the next time. You're going to learn from it. So thank you for sharing today, brother. And it was a pleasure, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. This is an awesome podcast. The idea behind it, everything to do with it is beautiful. I learned a lot too. I'm definitely stealing your verbiage, decades into days. I thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah.
That's fire.
Yeah.
Putting that in the notebook. So I was taking notes too while we were speaking.
Totally. Yeah. 2 that I live by is turn your mess into a message and turn decades into days. Those are really important. I live by those. I think they're really valuable. But again, your closing statements just really put something brand new on my plate here, the 4F. I think that's super cool. And I love that the be the man you needed growing up. And I think we want to be that for the people in our lives as well. So I saw Aaron had Mama Joe on a workout there the other day. So shout out to Mama Joe, who's out there listening to our podcast each week. And man, it's just been a pleasure. I hope that we get to do a part 2 of this when you go and tackle your next big, goal out there, big achievement.
Yeah.
Love to do this again. Absolutely. Okay, well, we always end each episode where we bring our listeners back in and we interact, because that's something we like to do. We like to be real. We like to be open book honest with you, and we like to include you. So gentlemen out there around the world, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at your laptop, or wherever you're watching your favorite podcast right now, and we want you to take your fist and bring it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, boys.